Hello, hello. Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 21st, 2020. And I am coming to you here on a special time because our guest is available now. And that's when we were able to get this scheduled. But let me go ahead and jump over to Facebook. Let me just make sure that the stream is coming in loud and clear. So just bear with me. Let me see if my technology is behaving. Okay, it does look like we are live, which is super duper. So here in Florida, I can tell you, actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and open the curtains. Not the curtains, the shades. It is a rainy, steamy day here in Florida, and it's been fun because I've been talking to my clients throughout the country, throughout the U.S. and Canada, and I'm getting folks sending me all these pictures of the first snowfall. So I received a couple yesterday, one from Shore Innovations out of Saskatoon, Canada. And Sean sent me a picture of the snow covering his neighborhood. And then I was on with Nicole, actually, from ProSource out of where was she was up in Minneapolis. And again, it was just a snowy, sleeting, wet, cold mess outside. And we don't have that here in Florida. It's still warm and sunny, and we're approaching the perfect weather, which is winter here in Florida, which is why all the snowbirds end up coming into town. But all right, guys, I see we got a bunch of people joining us. Thank you. If you are watching, don't forget to type into the comments and let me know where you're coming to the show from. What city, what state, what country. I know because we have an international guest here and known worldwide. And so I'm sure we're going to have friends joining us from around the world. It's just going to be a lot of fun. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring in Harshul. Man, I always call him Harshul, and I've never pronounced his last name. And I should have, right before I went live, I'm now looking at it. I know I'm going to mess it up, Harshul. I apologize, but I think it's Parikh. I don't know if I'm giving it the appropriate accent, but he's going to help us out here in just a minute. And this is show 141. And I'm coming to you at this time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, because he is coming to us from Mumbai, India. And in Mumbai, he's at the end of his day. I want to say it's 6 o'clock at night there or so. And Harshul is the CEO and founder of Trescent Lifestyles. And I'm happy and proud to say I've known Harshul right since close to the founding of his business back in the early 2000s. And we're going to talk all things technology and integration and doing business in India, COVID, and all sorts of fun topics. So let's go ahead and bring him in and let's get started. So bear with me here. Harshul, how are you, sir?
Hey, Ron. I'm doing excellent. Good morning. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's not morning for you, though, right? What time is it there? It's the end of your workday.
Just about 7:10 in the evening.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good time difference. And tell our audience, where are you coming to us from?
So we're coming from Mumbai, India. I'm in my office just towards the end of my workday, and happy to join you today to talk about some excellent different things on Automation Unplugged.
Now, you were And I see we've got some folks starting to comment. I'm going to show you how this works, Harshul, here. If I put that on the screen, then we get to see who is commenting on the live Facebook feed. So if you're out there watching or listening, then don't forget to comment if you have questions for Harshul. But Wes says, good morning. Ron, welcome to Automation Unplugged, Harshul. Thank you, Wes. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Wes.
We have Becca. She says, good morning or good evening, everyone. See, look at her. She's taking care of both of us there. So, Harshul, tell our audience a little bit about your business, just so we can understand kind of the basics here. Who and what is Trescent Lifestyles?
So, Ron, we started our business in 2006 when I moved back to India from Silicon Valley. I was living in Mountain View, working for a startup technology company. And when I moved to India, I was building my home, and I was so used to having, my 5.1 home theater system that at that time I bought from Best Buy in Mountain View. So I remember it was a Klipsch surround sound system with, my first paycheck. I think I went and bought out a flat screen Sony Vega television and a surround sound system. And then back in the day, then we had, I don't know if you remember, but Radio Shack sold these X10 smart plugs, which had these silver antennas, and you could press a button and you would be able to switch on and off your lights. And it was probably the coolest thing I had in my house. And everybody who came to my house in California was like, man, this place, everything's controlled while you're sitting on your couch. How do you do it? And so when I moved back to India, I wanted some of those gadgets in my house, and I went out in the market and tried to source a home theater and source a lighting control system. This is in 2006. And in that process, I really got totally interested in the subject. And I said, well, I have to find, something to do once I move back. And there looked like there was a big gap in the market. There were very few people who were importing electronics, who understood lighting control systems, who had ever even heard of a company called Lutron back then. And that's how, I sat in the same office where I am today and came up with the name Trescent. So there was a calendar on top of my monitor which said Crescent Chemicals. And I said, hey, if I put a T in front of it, let's Google it. There was nothing that showed up, no results. I went to GoDaddy, I searched for the domain, no results. And I said, that's how Trescent Lifestyles was formed. Did a few jobs for a few friends and family members. And I realized, well, this is something that I could end up doing as a full-blown, full-time business. And now we are 13 years sitting in the same office, and you and me are talking. It's quite surreal.
So you showed some really interesting marketing acumen way back when to know the uniqueness of the company name would be an attribute. It would be a benefit to you. How did you know that? Because I'm going to say not many integrators starting a business know that a unique name matters. And that's demonstrated by everyone listening or watching. If you look at your own company name, it probably has the word audio, video, automation, integration. And I could name about 5 or 10 more words, and those names comprise 90% of the names in our in our global industry. How did you know to have a unique name was a good thing?
So I think the roots of that probably came up from the time I spent in Silicon Valley, because we were surrounded by startups. Simple story, but I walked by the Facebook office every day after I got off my car. There were exactly 6 people in that office with a tiny 10-inch name tag on the window, but I was surrounded by all these great people from Stanford and MIT, and I think during my time there I realized that the name is important, and if somebody could come up with a company name called Google, I could come up with something that was unique in a couple of days.
No, that's good. What when you were in Silicon Valley, what were you doing? All right, how long were you there?
So I was there for about 6 years, and I started off uh, as a programmer in a company called Tell Me Networks that was developing a voice recognition engine. A lot of that engine is today part of the Alexa technology, Google Home, and lots of the other voice applications which are there. And a funny part is that the last title that I actually held in that company before I moved to India, I was called an integration architect.
Wow, what the irony.
The irony there that we were working towards how we would integrate maybe Domino's backend into a voice interface or Wells Fargo into a voice interface. So my job was to design the integration between the client's premise system and our on-premise cloud-based telephony system. And here I am, today in an industry where the word integration and the word architect is both are very, very important in our day-to-day lives.
No, yeah, that couldn't be more accurate. I'm curious, and our listeners are listening or watching live here from around the world. What was it like and I'm looking at your bio. It looks like you started in '06. What was the world of integration? And I want to say it from the landscape as a business operator. You started this business. What resources were available to you? I mean, were all the normal brands that everyone watching and listening know today, were they easily available, or were you having to figure this out?
So, I mean, we had to totally figure things out. I mean, the first time I wrote to Lutron, they had a team of two full-time people in India, and I have nothing wrong to say about the integrator, but he came to me with a graphic eye, which I purchased for uh, I mean, it would be probably close to about $5,000 at that time, even though the product retail price was about $1,000 because the duties were fairly high. So he was sitting in my house, opening the manual and figuring out, what dip switches he had to press to get this thing up and running. So Lutron today, 13 years from where I started, now has about 300 employees in India. So the
Wow.
landscape is completely changed. Uh, I remember going into the Definitive Technologies distributor's office and a very small office, in the suburbs of Mumbai, and we were talking, heart to heart about all of this technology. And he was like, "Well, you seem to know so much about audio. You're one of those buyers that seems to have read up a lot about the product before he, walks into the office." And that's really what the days back then were. It was automation was really not known. Home theaters and audio were still very popular. There were a handful of specialists that were in the industry that were doing projects in audio and video. And I think people were very afraid to even touch automation. The first job that I landed with was a significantly large project, and with a very prominent interior designer by the name of Talati and Pantaki in Mumbai. And the fact that I was willing to do audio and automation, they just said, "Well, you're the right guy for this job because the customer really wants automation and he needs audio, but we haven't found a single company in Mumbai that's been willing to do both. And you seem to be, savvy in both of these topics, and the customers happy, talking to one person." And the business model, just made sense. And a lot of the first few jobs we got because we wrote on our business card that we do, lighting control and automation as well as audio. And that was a winning edge in 2006 all the way up to 2011. It's still one of the winning edges today in a lot of the jobs that we go and present ourselves as a prospective integrator. I think the word integrator didn't exist in 2006, 2007.
No, that makes sense. And I'm going to give a quick shout out to a couple of folks. We have Sanjay. He says, you have to tell me what that means. Hari Om.
So he says Hari Om, which was like Namaste in India. Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks for your best wishes.
And you have Vivek.
I'm sure Vishal Mevani, a dear friend of mine who's Sanjay's brother, is listening to this podcast from somewhere around the universe at this point.
Absolutely. And we have Vivek. He says Namaste, Harshul.
Hi, Vivek.
How do I say? I butchered your last name when I was introducing you. Can you help me out? Just correct
me. You got it up. You got it absolutely right. Parikh is the right way to say it. So you got it right.
When I always say Harshul and Monica, my wife and I both know you guys and love to see you guys whenever we travel around the world to industry shows. And I felt actually embarrassed that I didn't get that clarification before I went live. But
you did a good job.
Such is life. What does the product mix look like for you today? Like if you don't mind sharing, what does your line card look like? What type of products do you sell?
So in terms of brands or in terms of maybe category?
Categories and brands. And by the way, I just mentioned, I invoked Monica's name. So she commented. So I have to put that on the screen. Hey, I'm right here. I know you're right here, Monica.
Awesome. So the product mix, Ron, is of course, you've got, home automation, which is lighting control. You've got motorization and drapes, automated drapes, skylights. We've got security systems, which include access control, biometric, fingerprint, door sensors. And then you've got audio video, which covers everything from background, pipe or multi-zone music to 2.1, 5.1 systems, dedicated home theaters, and very recently networking, which has started becoming, so very much important, has become part of our lineup. We've been distributors for Steinway, Lingdorf, and Lingdorf Audio for 9 years. That's been a fantastic partner for us in India. We represent Control 4 and Lutron from the smart home and integration perspective. And then, of course, Definitive Technologies, Triad, Marantz, Denon, your everyday audio video brands are part of the lineup as well.
Got it. Makes sense. Well, thank you for sharing. When you arrived back home in India and you were running your integration business, the concept of CEDIA, the International Trade Organization, did not exist in India, or was not operational in India, and you changed that. Can you tell our audience the story of how that change came about?
Sure, absolutely. When I moved here from the US and having spent a lot of my time in the United States, I witnessed that people, when they were building their homes, everything was very methodical. And I kept hearing stories from friends who were building their homes or family members about all of these various approvals that were required at different stages, without which the house could not progress to the next stage, right? So you couldn't close your ceilings until you had an inspection from the government approved inspector who would come and check things. So when I came to India, I said, there must be some body or organization that sets these standards that are used in the United States. And while talking to people, I did hear the name CEDIA because there were one or two people in India who had visited the CEDIA show before 2006, but I didn't really know at that point, how big the organization was or what they really covered under their mandate. Uh, During one of my visits back to the US, I was at Grimani Systems office, which was at that point MSR Acoustics. And I was sitting with Tony Grimani in his office, and we were talking about India and how I was so impressed by looking at all of the things in his office, how methodical they were in designing home cinemas and acoustics. And, he educated me more about CEDIA. He went, 5 steps deeper into the topic, saying, Harshul, I'd love to, have you understand more about CEDIA. And at that point, he introduced me to Wendy, who was heading CEDIA UK, and said, you probably want to talk to her about the fact that India is a growing market, and you have, a lot of friends who are running integration businesses, audio video businesses, and all of you guys could benefit from having, CEDIA be localized within India. So I remember right after that meeting, I sort of wrote an email while I was in the car from outside Tony's office off to Wendy. And the next day I had a prompt reply from her saying, wow, it's great to hear that you want to open a CEDIA chapter in India, and how many guys do you have? I said, we're probably 3 or 4 or 5 people. And she said, well, we can always, start small. The minimum quantity should be maybe 20, 25 members. So Monica and me hosted this CEDIA party at our office, and we had about 15 people come to that party where we just, educated everybody about CEDIA. We cut a CEDIA India cake, and we sent the pictures back to Wendy saying, listen, we've got 15, 20 people. Let's get this thing going. And Wendy said, well, you guys are really enthusiastic. I'm going to talk to my team internally and figure out how we can support you. And Ron, today we've got about 100 members in India who are CEDIA members. We have a full-time dedicated resource who's employed directly under CEDIA UK. His name is Rupesh, and he manages the CEDIA India chapter. So it's been fantastic, and I think all of us have been exposed to some fantastic standards on how we can improve the projects that we are engineering, whether they be small or large. And that's honestly what's allowed us to give us the confidence to do a 5,000 square feet house, or currently, execute a house which is 150,000 square feet.
All right, so you went there, so we're going to go there now. You've done some and I know this because back when we were doing engineering, we worked together. This is many moons ago. Since then, your projects have only gotten larger and more intricate, and you are working on some projects that are probably maybe the biggest projects in the world. Residentially, certainly in the top 10 in the world. Tell us about these projects, or this project.
So, the last 3 years, we have been designing and executing one of the largest, if not the largest, residence in eastern part of India. So just how you have the West Coast and the East Coast. So on the East Coast, this would be, I think, currently the largest residence that's being built. It's 10 stories tall. So it's a multi-family residence, even though the beauty of the residence is that there is an internal staircase within the residence that actually has no doors. And the resident on the 10th floor, which is a family member, can walk down to the resident on the first floor, who's also another family member. And this is where the tradition of India, where if you're going to your brother's house, you don't really need to ring the doorbell to enter his house. And they have carried that tradition into this modern home in this very unique way, just from an emotional and a bonding perspective, that the doors within the family members or the floors are always open to each other. So otherwise, this is a 10-story house where each floor is about 15,000 square feet. Uh, the largest floor has about 7 bedrooms. We have 45 television zones across the home. We have 450 motorized blinds, which are going into the residence,
How many?
and
What was that count?
450.
I'm assuming what technology did you use there?
So we, after doing a lot of due diligence, we have chosen the Lutron system for the motors. All of the 450 motors are being produced, custom built for us in the Lutron factory in the United States. And in fact, all of the material is now in India. We have begun our installation process. When I would be able to share, the engineering behind the installation at a future, maybe a CEDIA opportunity or some other opportunity, we have really incorporated the best practices that are possible, or which have been, I've been exposed to in the last 13 years within this home. So we have notifications that will come to our office when something is not working. We have smart electric meters which are monitoring how much power is being consumed in the house. This is definitely a next generation home. It is one of India's first LEED Platinum Energy certified home.
Wow.
And there were various parameters that we had to adhere to make the LEED certification happen. And it's a very exciting project, one which has taken us nearly 1,000 days in design. And now within the next 6 months, we plan to hand over that project to the homeowners. We see them moving into the house somewhere between August and September in 2021.
What did you learn? And I'm assuming it's a long list. I can only imagine. What have you learned taking on such a large project?
I think the single most important skill is to be extremely detail oriented and be transparent, because when you have a customer that is so large, uh, you have to, as their consultant and as their integrator, present rightfully all the correct technical solutions in front of them, be able to explain to them the differences for every maybe $5,000 or $10,000 which get incremented in the budget, in terms of how is this really going to benefit me. And when you go through those steps very meticulously on paper, you are able to design the home without necessarily choosing the hardware on day one. I think the hardware was probably chosen somewhere close to after the 500 or 600 day. So close to 2 years into the project, we were pre-wiring so that we could have Crestron in there, we could have Control 4 in there, we could have Lutron in there, we could have KNX in there. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that the technology evolves so quickly that by the time you come closer to when the customer is going to move in, you need to have the flexibility to be able to give him the best solution then. So, 1 year ago we had AirPlay, we never had AirPlay 2. Now you suddenly have AirPlay 2 and your entire multi-zone design gets modified, overnight. So we put in all of those provisions from day one, and we took the decisions in a very transparent and confident way, because we had delivered a previous house for a very close relative of this owner, which was about 60,000 square feet in the same city. And after he saw the way we executed that house and the testimonial we had received from that family, he had built that trust with us from day one, and he gave us that trust to let us present the options without looking at the commercial angle overriding the decision. So we tried to put in the right technology first and then work backwards with the manufacturer to negotiate a fair price, since the volume was so high on every single SKU that's going into that house.
Do you see the rate of demand for technology in India increasing? Is it flat? Is it
Absolutely.
increasing? And what does it look like?
Absolutely. I mean, I would be happy to share that I think over the last 10 years, our business has grown 30 to 35% year on year, with some years having a surge of 100% growth in revenue. And the smart home industry in India, which of course includes audio and all these various verticals, it's now front and center. I almost feel that in 2020 it's very similar to when I bought maybe the X10 emitter from Radio Shack in California. We're at that pivot point in the industry in India today, where Wi-Fi, smart plugs, smart appliances are being bought off the shelf, and people do want to be able to control their entire home from their smartphone. The smartphone industry has so widely penetrated that all the various strata of population are on a smartphone today. So having a house where you can change the color of the light, or you can switch on your favorite channel or play your favorite radio station in the morning without getting up from the bed, is front and center. And I think that's going to be an explosion in the next decade to come.
Here in the US, I'm going to switch topics a little bit. Here in the US, so I'm going to say, I'll say North America. My limited knowledge and exposure is to what I see happening in the market here. And what I see happening, and I'll tie it to COVID, is the consumer, the homeowner isn't traveling right now, isn't planning to travel right now. And so what they're doing is they're investing in their homes.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a really a boom for the residential technology integrator. Many of them, maybe all of them, are busier right now than they actually can handle. So there's actually an abundance of demand that they're not able to convert into work because there's a manpower shortage. It's a bottleneck within their company. What are you seeing in India? What is the status of COVID there, and what is the status of the market?
So, coincidentally, Ron, we're seeing a very similar situation in the luxury residential sector, at least. The government has, provided some incentives for customers who were maybe delaying the purchase of their luxury home by reducing some of the various taxations over the last 6 months, especially after COVID, which has seen a surge in the number of bookings in the residential sector, and also in the number of possessions that have gone through the roof. So we see an increase in demand for everything related to the home, whether it be home appliances. A friend of mine runs a large retail home appliance store, and people are buying dishwashers, people are buying vacuum cleaners, new air conditioners, new televisions. All throughout COVID, they were seeing some of the best numbers from a month-over-month sales. And from a high-end residential technology sector, I've seen that the customer is now more confident when he comes in for his first discussion. He has made the house so much more of a priority as compared to a year ago, where he might be like, well, do I really need this? Maybe lighting control is not that important. The audio is more important. Now, every aspect within every room is being very precisely, uh, being thought about. And that's because the customer has ended up spending the last 9 months, 24 hours a day in lockdown in the house. And they've realized what's the benefit of having a good Wi-Fi, what's the benefit of having an automated drape where they could, just switch off, open or close the blinds in the morning or in the night, and having a peaceful entertainment experience with their close family members watching their favorite movies. So I see that home has become front and center in our business. We don't need to sell anymore. I think we just need to provide the right solution after understanding the requirements. The demand is just organic and natural at this stage.
Do you have a feeling on how long this state of busyness or high levels of demand will persist? I know that you're heavily involved with the other integrators throughout India. Is there a consensus is this going to end, in January? Is this going to begin? Is this going to continue for the next year or two? Do you have any
So
theories?
I think Ron, the construction industry around the world is fairly cyclical, right? Where typical high-end luxury home takes about 18 to 24 months to construct, sometimes up to 36 months. And so every project that began 12 or 24 months ago is coming to an end. And people are speeding up the existing projects because they want to move into their new home, and they're waiting to move into this awesome house that they had designed for the last 2 years. And similarly with the new homes which are being bought, they're freshly starting their new cycle of designing their residence and telling you what their requirements are. So I think even though there's a boost in sales right now post COVID, I think we're just making up for maybe the delayed purchases over the last 6 months because people were at home and offices were shut. But I think the year-on-year growth is going to continue, and that's going to be steady. I don't see it as a one-time boom which is suddenly going to slow down in January or February or March. I think you're just going to have new homeowners coming in with new requirements, and it's up to every business whether they want to diversify their target audience from being ultra premium to some of the projects which might have shorter life cycles. I'm getting a lot of inquiries where somebody wants to move into a house within 3 to 6 months, has a smaller budget, and is able to take decisions between 3 to 4 days of meeting you. And I think that's great for business too. So we're sort of diversifying our target audience a little bit, so that we can also jump onto that demand side, which is generating very, very fast.
I want to give a quick shout out to some of our folks that are watching, and then I want to dive in to the people side of your business and how you're scaling, because you are scaling your business at a rapid pace. And I think there's going to be some interesting maybe takeaways or learnings that you've had to enable that, and maybe some
Sure.
mistakes you've made along the way. And I'd love to get into that. But let me give some shout outs here. Vinu says commendable. I think when you were talking about some of your cool stuff going on there. And
Thank you.
Ted says, great advice, Harshul. Ted, thanks for watching and listening, sir. And Akanksha, hello all. Namaste from India.
Namaste.
Namaste. And Rajiv, congratulations. Going great, Harshul. And we got one more.
Rajiv ji.
Oh, they're coming in now. They see we're giving them credit, so they're starting to flow in here. How do I pronounce this one, Harshul?
Aditya Gaggar.
Aditya Gakar.
That's
Superb. Thank you. And then Shanjay. He says, I love your determination, talent, and confidence. Let all those assets of yours help you achieve your goal. I'm hoping to hear good news soon. Awesome. Harshul, you are growing at a rapid pace, and I'm gonna make an assumption. Correct me if I'm wrong. That there's not a great talent pool of integration trained staff that you're able to simply bring in and put them on a course for success. I'm imagining that you're growing them, you're hiring
Yes.
people, and you're training them. So how do you manage that, or how have you been managing that?
So I think recruiting in India has always been challenging in this particular industry because, you know, uh, we have few people that are getting trained in this space, and that challenge will continue. But on the flip side, Ron, we have been very actively recruiting all through COVID on LinkedIn. We've had about 10 open requisitions that we've been filling since the last 6 months, and we've had some fantastic hires over COVID because of the whole situation where certain people had, were either laid off by their employer or they were asked to work from home on, heavy salary pay cuts, and that wasn't really working out for them. So we have been able to acquire some fantastic talent that was not available previously before the pandemic happened. Uh, but one of the biggest challenges that we face is that even after you recruit people, training them to be a specialist within our space is difficult. So when you go and meet a client and you're trying to do a requirements gathering exercise, you really need to know your subject extremely well. And during COVID, we took a decision that uh, the only way for us to really make this work was to make a significant investment in technology. So we have decided to work with a leading software company, who is among the top five in the world, where maybe a small business like us would not naturally go and approach them. You would sort of think of using, smaller software house solutions. But after vetting all of that and, coming from the software industry myself, I felt going with somebody who really knows their subject at the top level seemed to be the right thing to do at this point. So we've invested in a platform which will be available to our team in the next 3 months, where we've completely automated the sales process. So typically, you would meet a customer, gather their requirements, and spend 2 or 3 days in getting back to them with a proposal, which would have multiple different options for comparison. Once we go live with this system within the organization, our benchmark time for a 10,000 square feet house is that you would have not more than 1 hour's time in front of the software to push out 4 or 5 different proposals uh, through all of the automation that we've embedded. So we've literally taken 10 years of knowledge and written algorithms that say that if the room size, the viewing distance is 15 feet from the viewing wall, the system automatically picks the television size. And depending on whether the architect or the client says, I want on wall, in wall, floor standing speakers, it automatically picks what speakers you need to put into that room. So it's doing all of this by running various calculations and permutations and combinations behind. And an experienced engineer would be able to choose from the library. So, we used to use DTools up till now. and you would go to D-Tools and say, okay, floor standing speaker, here are 5 different options. Let me select 1, 2, and 3. Well, this is going to visually show you those options, and based on what you're listening from the customer as well as the interior designer, saying, well, I want this to be in gloss white, or I want this to be not, this particular property is important for me. It will just omit all the other options and present only the top 3 options. And then with artificial intelligence, which is built into our platform, it will start recognizing that this interior designer typically likes metal keypads. So it will automatically put in metal keypads on the next project.
Wow. Does this software have a life beyond Trescent, or does this software enable Trescent to simply scale faster, more efficiently?
So it's an extremely good question. I think the initial plan is that it will be used in-house until we've got all the bells and whistles totally figured out. Stage 2 would be that we would put it in the hands of our partners who are representing our brands and being part of our distribution platform. And stage 3, Ron, which is probably very controversial, but something that I believe is going to allow us to go into triple X growth, is to put the software directly in front of the architect and let him give us the initial budgets and selection without us spending a single engineering hour on that project.
I'm assuming you vetted this concept by your architects, clients, and friends, and they love or
my
this idea.
My architects are eagerly waiting for their login ID, because they're saying, listen, Harshul, we could be sitting in front of the customer, picking certain parameters, and a budget pops up. We're talking to the client, let them tell us, okay, $10,000 for lighting control seems okay. $5,000 for pipe music seems reasonable. $2,000 for security is okay. I give you that initial cut and then you refine it. Today we spend so much time just trying to get that initial cut out there.
I'm in awe. I had no idea that you were doing this. You did not tell me in advance. This is like a secret skunk.
It is actually a secret, and now it's out there in the market, thanks to automation Unplugged. But I think that's the type of innovation that COVID really inspired. When you're sitting at home and you're not busy with your customers, you really have an opportunity to pivot your business. And the only way to do a massive pivot is to come up with something from an engineering perspective, which is a game changer. And I think we have that, and everybody at Trescent is extremely excited to see this roll out.
It sounds like the opportunities in India are unlimited in terms of growth potential. You're certainly innovating around your operations and the overall management of the company. What, if we look at the other side, what are the challenges? What are the limits? Or what are the obstacles that you see that you need to overcome to continue to scale?
So I think customer support will always be a big challenge. The customer is becoming more demanding. The customer is expecting the system to almost have, a 99.49 SLA. And the money that's being spent, whether it be small or large, they are not immediately willing to accept that there may be a certain hardware at a certain price can only give you, so much horsepower. So everything needs to run literally at whatever your benchmark in engineering standard is. And so I think the challenge on customer expectation and customer support will continue to grow. Being able to provide 24/7 support, where if your HDMI is not able to give you picture at 11 p.m., when most people might be asleep. That's a problem because the client at that point wants to watch that show on Netflix or Disney. And so do it yourself debugging, I think, is an area that we are investing our time in. As part of this platform, we were exposed to something very interesting, which is a WhatsApp chatbot. So WhatsApp is a messenger in India, which is very popular. And you could build a chatbot with AI that could tell you the first few steps of self-debugging. And if that solved your problem, you don't need to be transferred to a call center or an engineer. You may just want to reboot a particular product and your problem solved. Similarly, we're investing very highly on the world of maybe what's popular worldwide today as domots and other remote monitoring systems. I think being able
I have a domots unit in my rack right over here. So
absolutely. So, we had a power outage in Mumbai a couple of days ago, which was I think last 10 years, it was the single largest power outage. The entire city was gone. And all of the customers that we were remotely monitoring, we immediately got alerts when the power in different areas started coming back up. And we could see that the network was back up, the processors were back up. And that gave the customer confidence. We were also able to give the customer, those alerts of, switching off their power until the surge in the grid, was stabilized. So I think that's what the client's looking for. How are you safeguarding their investment? How are you giving them proactive support and services? And you're only as good as your last customer. So if you have an unhappy customer, it's bad for your business. And technology such as HDMI, Wi-Fi networking, these are still prone to, having odd behaviors, which are out of control from the integrator side. And you still are facing the brunt of an unhappy customer. So investing in that level of customer service is, I think, going to be the single largest challenge right now. And seeing that customers are actually willing to pay for it. So I'd also like to share, Ron, that post-COVID, we had the largest amount of annual customer maintenance agreements signed. Before, people didn't take it seriously. They said, well, it's okay, you'll come in a couple of days and you'll solve it. Now the thought is, I want it fixed right away. So if you want it fixed right away, there's an SLA, whether you want to fix it in 6 hours, 24 hours, 72 hours, or 5 working days, and you can pay different levels of price for that. And the largest number of contracts were signed in the last 2 months than honestly what we've seen in the last 10 years, because people are understanding that technology is here to stay. We're always going to be in our house using it. We need to be able to enable our service provider to give us the right level of service. And I'm very happy to see that change within the consumer mindset.
I want to peel the layers back on that. When does the consumer, when are they made aware that you have service agreements? Is that happen up front in the beginning of the sales process, or is it only at the end? And I'm going to get a little bit more specific. Is there a free option that tells them they can't call you past 6 o'clock on a Friday night? In other words, you're not going to serve that particular demand or that need, or so yeah, I guess that's a number of questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we sort of overhauled our customer support program right after the lockdown was relaxed a little bit, and we had our team together. We recently hired a very senior customer service head who comes with 25 years of experience in providing customer service. And now we've got, just like you said, we have different levels. So we have our VIP program that gives you standby equipment if some of your equipment is not functioning. It gives you the ability to provide live support if you have an event, like let's say you have a big family gathering which is important, or an anniversary, and you're not sure if your systems are always going to be fully operational because you want that 100% uptime. So we would have an engineer be there on site supporting you throughout that event. And then we have a standard program where the SLA goes all the way up to 5 working days for a resolution. Surprisingly, mostly everybody is signing up for our VIP and gold plan, because what we can see is nobody wants the resolution to be beyond 24 hours. And I'm happy to see that, because that allows us to invest even more in terms of tools for customer service. So very recently, as part of the software overhaul, we've now got a system that shows you that the engineer is on the way to your house on real time on GPS. So you're not waiting for 25 minutes that, when is the engineer actually going to arrive, and when can I debrief that person, face to face. So we've gone the extra mile to bring in this technology. And I think 2021 is going to be extremely exciting when all of this goes live at Trescent.
There's no doubt. So we definitely are going to have you back on to talk about that. Maybe Monica can join us as well.
Sure.
And we'll have you both. That'll be great. Let's give a few of the folks again that have chatted here or provided comments. Let's give them a little acknowledgement here. How do I say this name?
So this is Jaya Guliani.
So he says, Jaya Guliani says, super proud of the work Harshul and Monica are doing in the home technology for the luxury residential in India. I couldn't agree more. And Jaleel Sabir, really interested in the software, Harshul. I think you got your first sale right there. So Jaleel's ready to buy. He said, I started this exercise 2 years ago, and I'm still to arrive somewhere. So it sounds like he's excited to see that.
Sure, Jaleel. We will definitely share all our learnings with you, because that's how we grow as an industry together.
Awesome. We'll give one more here. Vivek says, a very informative podcast. Thank you, Vivek. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Go to your podcast software on your phone and subscribe so you can get the audio versions. Harshul, we're right there at the end of our time. I know you have commitments, and it's the end of your day, so you need to get back to Monica and home life and to the puppies. How can those that are watching or listening get in touch with you, or if they want to learn more about Trescent Lifestyles, or if they want to reach you directly?
So I think anybody who wants to get in touch with us can reach us through our website, which is www.trescent.com. There are various phone numbers on there, as well as an ability to WhatsApp us from the website, and that would be the best way to reach us. Otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn, very active there. You could drop me, connect a message on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to share my mobile and have a chat over the phone with anybody from around the world who is interested in luxury residential technology.
Awesome. And I'm scrolling across the screen your website. I got that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Awesome. Harshul, it's been a pleasure, man. We don't talk often enough. I know
I know.
It's the time zone. I think the time issue is what makes it challenging sometimes. But I see Monica just posted the phone number there in the comments section for those that are listening. But it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast, sir, and love to have you back soon.
My pleasure, Ron. Thank you for accommodating us in the time zone. I know this is an early start for you today, and it's definitely been nice chatting. I'm very happy to see the way your podcast and your Automation Unplugged channel has taken off. 141 shows today. It's truly commendable. The information which is available through One Firefly for the last decade that I have known you is industry top-notch standard, and you keep inspiring us. So Thank you for, all of the great work that you're doing for the smart home industry as well as the residential technology space.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciated.
Give my love.
Guys, I just realized I just cut off Harshul, and I didn't mean to do that, but I think he was going to say, give my love to Daniele and Max. He knows my family and I know his. So thank you, Harshul. I appreciate that. And everyone, that was a lot of fun, man. I feel like we need to book another hour with Harshul, because that was dynamite. That was dense, packed with gold every minute. Um, I'm almost speechless, and you guys know me. I'm rarely speechless. And the funny thing is, right before we went live, Harshul was like, "Ron, I'm not known for talking in at length," and he said, I need Monica here, because Monica can give us a 5 or a 10-minute answer." And he's like, I'm nervous about my ability to do that. I was like, don't worry, Harshul. My job is to make this easy and fun. And I would challenge, he just killed it. So those of you that know Harshul, I think give him a shout out, give him a pat on the back, because I think he did fantastic. I do have you guys still here with me. So if you have not done so, please go to your favorite podcast platform and just type in Automation Unplugged, and you'll see the icon, and it'll say Automation Unplugged with Ron Callis. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment if you feel so compelled, and definitely would love you guys to do that. And if you want to get in touch with myself or anyone on the team at One Firefly, you can just visit our website, give us a call, and we'd love to hear from you. So on that, I'm going to sign off, and I hope you all stay happy and healthy and safe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.